I'm going to call the meeting of the December 13th meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we observe our moment of silence, I would ask that people keep the Sanford family in your thoughts and prayers.
Yep.
Sam Sanford was a very beloved minister in our community to the veterans and was the pastor of the Rock, which was a church that was very welcoming to people of all socio and economic leanings. But he was an incredible minister to the veterans and to the people of Leavenworth, and a dear friend of my father's as well. So his funeral services will be next Thursday, but the visitation will be on Wednesday from 3 to 7 p.m. at Davis's Funeral Home. Thank you, and please observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, do the roll call, beginning with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Here.
And Vicki Cos, I'm here. Commissioner Doug Smith. Here. Commissioner Stephen.
Here.
Commissioner Colson.
Here.
You're all here today. Yay. Okay, administrative business. We will begin with, I'm going to go ahead and ask our treasurer for right now to please come up and introduce the newly selected and elected treasurer, and I'll go ahead and let you do the introductions for Caleb.
Commissioners, I think you've individually met Caleb Gordon, and he will be replacing me as of January 2nd. I understand that you're swearing in as January 2nd? On the 2nd, at the Justice Center?
We're going for that, if possible, with the holidays.
I do believe,
yes.
I don't mean to interrupt,
Sure.
I do believe it's going to be here.
Okay.
Oh, it will be here. Okay. Well, I wanted him to meet you in your official capacity, and just want to welcome him aboard. I think he'll do a great job. It'll take a little time, but it would for anybody. So, anyway, I also want to remind you that on the last day of the month, like we've done every year, which will be December 29th, the treasurer's office will be closed to the public because we're closing out for the year. So we can't close out if we're continuing to add transactions to it. So I also wanted to make that announcement. Is there any questions you would like to?
No, just welcome.
Welcome, Caleb.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Janice, for
And
all you've done.
thank you for your service,
Well,
as many years.
Yes, it's been a long time. 22 years, not as treasurer, but 22 years
Altogether.
in Leavenworth County. So, I'm
Caleb,
sorry?
don't forget to remind me on when your swearing is, because I will forget.
Okay,
So
I will do that.
at least I know where it's at now.
Okay.
Thanks, Janice.
Enjoy your retirement, Janice.
Well, thank you. If I could only get my husband to retire, it'd be much more fun.
Commissioners, if I might,
Watch what you say, Counselor.
Janice is very public service oriented, so if you think of any tasks over the next several years that she could do, please offer them to her.
Well, I hope to be volunteering at the church as much as I can and spending time with grandkids.
Okay.
That's my goal. So.
Yep, that's a good goal.
But we have lots of committees, you know.
I'm done with those committees.
Thank you.
Okay, also now we need to have some discussion on the fuel system replacement. Mr. Van Paris?
Commissioner, before Mr. Knoll makes the presentation to you, I would ask that the commission vote to authorize the chair to declare that the replacement of the fuel system constituted an emergency situation under Kansas law.
You want to have any discussion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
I can't believe it lasted this long.
That is a long
Yeah.
time, Doug. Yeah.
And it just for public to understand, it kind of failed. And so there was an emergency to get the replacement taken care of and as quickly as possible. But I think Bill can come and give more.
Discuss this?
Sure. It's okay. Just kind
Commissioners,
of.
I don't have the official bid documents that we did receive in front of me today, but we reached out to multiple vendors. We contacted 5. We got bids from as many as 3. and had several different options to look at. The lowest cost, most effective, and fastest option was a local option through the Leavenworth County Co-op, and we did present that information in an executive summary to the county administrator for his review last week, and I believe he sent it to you guys and the county councilors. So the system had reached its end of life, and when everything is kind of outdated, when you replace one piece of the equipment, it then affects the other piece of equipment that can no longer be updated, and it just kind of snowballs. But obviously everyone knows the critical nature of having a good working fuel system when we're doing snow removal and providing the services to the county.
Okay.
I believe the new system should last. I think it has a warranty of 30 years, so we
Should be in shape.
good shape.
But it was piecemeal together 23 years ago.
Yeah, it's been there for a
and it
while.
takes 23 years ago were used, I believe.
Yeah,
Purchased.
they were used then, and we had added, the card read or the key control or.
And the pumps are mechanical still have the mechanical dials and dial fuel pumps.
Had a lot of gelled up fuel run through them too.
Yeah, so it has lasted. It was identified for replacement in 2025, but it did not make it to that point.
Still a long time.
Yep.
Thanks for giving us a little
Thanks,
bit of
Bill.
an overview.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any other administrative business today?
I don't know if this should fall under administrative business or reports, but I did have a little information on property taxes from the KAC. So,
Go ahead.
okay. Commissioner Culberson and I had met with the committee during the summer, and Commissioner Smith carried the vote on at the KAC. And I will tell you, from Jay Hall, I've attached a proposed legislative policy statement from KAC. It should be on the website tomorrow. This is the language. We added language regarding property tax relief based largely on your proposal with some adjustments to language by the committee in priority number 2. We also struck language in priority number 5 that would have otherwise required opposition to SCR 1611. So the adopted language that we got KAC to agree to was, of course, number 1 priority is LAVTR. KAC supports the legislature funding the local ad valorem tax reduction fund as required by state statute as soon as possible. And the number 2 priority, we were able to accomplish this. KAC supports property tax changes that would reduce the reliance of county government on property tax revenue to fund county services. KAC supports efforts to make the property valuation and taxation system more stable, predictable, fair, and equitable, which allows them to support the constitutional amendment. And then they also struck from their original language was, we oppose any legislation that artificially limits or otherwise alters property valuation, and strongly support a legislative change adding language to current state law to clearly indicate that a constitutional fair market value for non-agricultural property does not include a hypothetical lease fee. That was struck. So since they struck that language, now the KAC can support the constitutional amendment, and that's directly because of the efforts of the commissioners. And now the legislators now need to do their job and put it on the ballot.
It's the best time for it to happen. If it's not going to
Also, I
happen.
think another important thing that was added was through the transportation was rail.
Yeah, we
but
did.
we also dropped the trail part of it. Didn't have to have trails involved with that. Thought I was going to bring this up. And if it's a consensus of the board, I'd like to put up on the screen next week the KAC video on LAVTR to play through that.
It's a good video.
It's a very good
It is,
video.
it is.
And it would answer a lot of questions about who's telling the facts.
Well,
Yep.
because
We've got some representatives that are
I know.
are providing alternative facts. And I appreciate that. I really do. Because that allows people to go do the research. If we put our story out, they put their story out, do the research, and find out who the facts are.
It doesn't help when they double down on
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, the facts are the facts.
Commissioner,
I really want to I'd really like to put that video.
It's an excellent video.
I agree
I don't
that.
have a problem with that.
But Commissioner, I think people are getting the word on the things that's been done. And this county right here, along with other people, has led the charge. And that video is excellent. But from talking to some of the legislators, they are getting phone calls. And now all I ask is do what Commissioner Smith just said. Go review it yourself and you determine what you think the true facts are. And I think I know what you're going to end up with.
I know what you're going to end up with.
I'm just gratified, when we could change some of the
language.
what this means is they won't be lobbying against us in Topeka.
Yep.
Which we ran into that on the tornado relief.
Right.
We ran into that as
Right.
well. So when we were able to change KC, then they were helping us then.
Right.
Yep.
So
Good.
it's a real.
Thanks for the efforts, guys. Thanks for representing us
Yeah.
in Wichita.
Moving the Titanic takes a while.
Well put, Mike. Well put.
Sink it.
I got something too, Vicki.
Just got
Oh,
something.
go ahead, Jeff.
So, to Churchill on that, when a couple years ago, April of 22, this commission brought up the fact that state legislators were saying, how do we know the county will use the LAVTR funds for property tax relief? And our rebuttal was, well, it's built into the bill itself, but we'll take it up a notch and we will pass a county resolution that says we will use it 100% to relieve property tax. So a motion was made by Commissioner Culberson and seconded by Commissioner Doug Smith that when the state follows the law of KSA 792959 and 792964 and returns our LAVTR money, we will use 100% of it to reduce our mill levy and relieve everyone's tax amount that they pay to the county. And that passed 5-0. But we didn't follow through with an actual resolution. So if I have a consensus of the board, can we direct staff to prepare an actual resolution? This came up when I've been answering all the phone calls and emails on the LAVTR, and they said, so I explained to them, they said, well, they say, how do they know you'll use it that way? And I said, well, we passed a county resolution already that says we will. Turns up we actually didn't finish passing the
But I
resolution,
think
so I
that
wanted
the
to do that.
Consensus
It
of
was,
the board.
it was a vote by the board, and I believe when you have a formal vote by the board to do something, that's as binding as anything. But
Commissioners, this topic has been discussed by this commission and prior commissions for quite a lengthy period of time. Commissioner Culberson is correct. The statute specifically states that the purpose of what's referred to as the LAVTR and other revenue sharing methodologies is for the express purpose of the reduction of local property taxes, ad valorem taxes. I can certainly prepare a resolution for you to sign that will, in essence, say you will comply with state law.
And the reason I think that's important is when we're all gone, it's a
Right.
standing resolution
right, but
for
I
the
just
next
think that
commission.
it's just becoming very ridiculous that individuals keep kind of doubling down on and accusing past or commissions for not using it for the purpose of which the law said that it was supposed to be used for. That's not something that has ever been done by
Yep.
Leavenworth County ever, and that needs to be very clear. So,
I have no
yes, I don't
problem
have a
with
problem with
I have no
having a
problem with that either.
resolution if nobody else does.
I know
Okay,
it's just
well, we'll-
doubling, but I'd still.
Please.
We'll undertake the preparation.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can get that before, maybe by next week.
I didn't realize that, Jeff.
Yeah, next week we will take care of that in next week's meeting to have it formalized.
Thank you.
And that'd be
Thank you, Jeff.
fitting to show the video prior to
Right
us
Yes.
Yep.
memorializing that.
Yep.
Okay.
I have one last thing. And this, could we get a meeting with our attorney on the Flatlands to talk about the MOU?
Certainly, I'll make arrangements. I doubt if it will occur during this year.
Well, maybe
During
the
the
week
schedule.
after, or the first week of January.
I'll contact them and ask them to prepare to come up to give you a briefing on it. And there will be some developments with regards to the testing procedure as well. So I think that would be timely, and I'll work to have that.
I agree. That's a good idea,
We were
Mike.
experiencing some odor this morning.
Here.
Mr.
We're getting a lot of emails.
From here.
Starting back up
You can
again.
smell it from the parking lot
Yeah,
here.
you can
so
smell it here in Leavenworth now.
It's just too bad.
It is. It's very unfortunate. Okay, if there's nothing further with administrative business, I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. All right. On to formal board action. We need to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2023-35, waiving the gap requirements of KSA 75-1120AA as they apply to the County of Leavenworth for the year end of 2023.
Yes, Leavenworth County does not follow the gap requirements. We have an option to do non-gap, which is more of a cash basis.
Yep.
And each year, the commissioners, we pass a resolution waiving the gap requirement for the county. So this has to be done before the audit begins for the year 2023.
And we do this every year.
Every year.
Every year.
So,
Yep.
And
Commissioners, just visiting with Jen, and she's been making this presentation to both this commission and prior commissions. The reason the county is exempting itself from this specific provision is that provision really applies to municipalities that have public utility systems,
Yeah.
such as electricity, water, wastewater treatment, which you do not.
Yeah.
And consequently, you need to expressly say that you will not be following that specific provision because you'd be doing accounting on systems that don't exist.
Right.
right.
Right. Thanks, David.
ready?
Questions? Ready for
Nope. Madam Chair, I move that we approve Resolution 2023-35, waiving the gap requirements of KSA 75-1120A as they apply to the County of Leavenworth for the year end of 2023.
Second.
motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I think
We skipped
we
public
needed
comment.
public comment. I apologize, but that will get us to where we are right now. I'm going to go ahead and open public comment. I did skip that, sorry. And first, I would invite Rebecca Swarnton for public comment.
Good morning.
Leavenworth County Commissioners, good morning. Rebecca Swearingen, 24921 and 24941 Loring Road. And I would like to take a few minutes to go back in time. Right as COVID hit and public could not attend meetings, there were 3 SUPs on the planning and zoning agenda. Over 50% of our neighborhood west of the bridge signed a petition for this meeting. That was included Twisted Vines, Irvin's Beyond, and Tri-Hole. We did not support any of the SUPs as we were in an agricultural preserve at that time. Our petition was ignored completely as per the minutes on the agenda. Tri-Hole had not finished their requirements. Once Tri-Hole did go through with an SUP almost a year later, 70% of the neighboring properties protested. This may be called a contractor's yard, but is a non-conforming junkyard with multiple dirt-moving machinery, cement blocks to hold recycle, multiple containers, large recreational area that friends and family go use that has contributed to a death, constant vehicles coming all times of the week, day and night. The only stipulation of the SUP was to have a screening. That has been dead, not once, but twice. Moreover, it covers none of the views of the property. Complaints have been many. The sheriff's office has been called multiple times. County maintenance had to redo mailboxes to widen our road for the oversized machinery, and the taxpayers' money is being wasted by continuing to gravel that road for an uncontrollable dust. For this recommended 2-year extension, please include stipulations that all cranes are removed, that tanks, recycle, oil tanks, water tower, train car storage containers, all moving parts of this contractor's yard is cleaned up at the end of the term. Please do not use the excuse of money. Tri-Hole has rentals in Tonganoxie and received COVID funds for over $100,000 for 2 consecutive years during COVID. Affordable houses and land have been on sale on County Road 1 and 32 that are stated for commercial use. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then I need, let's see, Kurt Brock, is that you?
Yes, that's
Okay.
right, and you pronounced it correctly. Madam Chair and members of the County Commission, my name is Kurt Brock. I'm an attorney at the firm of Brown and Ruprecht, and I rise here today in support of the resolution 2023-32 for Tri-Hole. Tri-Hole is a business that is woman-owned, veteran-owned, and it's engaged in a crane rental business. And contrary to Ms. Swearingen's comments, this is not a junkyard. There have not been multiple complaints about it. In fact, county staff will tell you that during the period of the existence of the special use permit, they have not gotten any complaints. So it employs 6 people in this county. It, as the name suggests, it operates self-propelled cranes. It is currently operating under an SUP that this commission granted it back in 2021, expiring in 2024. We ask that the SUP be extended. Candidly, in all candor to you all, we'd like it for more than 2 years if that is possible. As you know, COVID was raging when this happened, and that has slowed the development of this business. My client would like to add additional structures to cover these cranes. They're not out in the elements. But given the short time frame of that SUP, that presents a little bit of a dilemma. We also would potentially ask for a 10-year extension of that. Again, we understand under the current SUP that you had given us a 3-year with the possibility of 2 more years. However, if it's not a 10-year or additional term, we would like an auto-renew provision. Tri-Hole has been a good corporate citizen. It's applied dust control. There's been no complaints, as I indicated, that we're aware of by staff. It does a lot of volunteer work in this community. It's added dust control on the road. The one outstanding issue is the drainage structure assessment. That assessment, an engineer has looked at it, has orally told my client that he does not see any issues or problems, and we're awaiting the written report from him, and we're certainly willing to provide that to this county commission.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, now we need to, and both of those public comments were in reference to the next item on our agenda, which is to consider a motion based on the findings of the golden factors as set forth in the staff report and is adopted by the Planning Commission and substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented to adopt Resolution 2023-32 and conditionally approve the proposed special use permit as outlined in case DEV 2023-136, which is Tri-Hole, subject to the performance and observations of the conditions set forth in staff reports. Motion?
I'd like to make that as a motion for adoption.
Second? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Okay, now we need discussion. Is there any discussion, please?
This one's for Mr. Jacobson. We had passed a policy on auto renewals on SUPs. Will this fit this one?
No, you have a specified term under which this one is operating, and staff has made the recommendation that you hold that specified term.
But our prior ones also had specific deadlines too. They were 5-year or 10-year or whatever.
When there's a specified term, you can go outside of that if you so choose, but we've made the recommendation that you stay with that original resolution 2020-25, which expires January 13th of 2026.
I was always under the impression that all of this entire special use permit was to give the opportunity for the business to relocate to a more suitable and in an industrial area. And so I vehemently oppose any conversation about a 10-year special use permit. I haven't seen any movement and haven't received any information that indicates what work has been done to move the operation to an industrial area. And that's just me. That was what we had, when this came before us originally, that was the conversation and that was the conditions under which the special use permit was granted.
Vicki, I agree with what you're saying. I like the proposal as it stands right now. That's what we talked about in the past, was that, and also the time eventually to move in another area. I have no issue with the company itself whatsoever, but I like the idea of sticking with what we asked, and that I think it's 2026, John. That was the yeah.
And at that point, the operation needs to have been relocated. That's but that's up to the, well, I won't be here at that time, but that's just.
Neither will I.
I had a couple questions.
Sure, go ahead.
During the planning commission, they said you'd not received any complaints about the office, but then would you, if there was complaints to the sheriff's office, would you have received those?
Only if they're forwarded on. Again, we haven't received anything formally in the last 7-8 months.
Okay. Also, the screening, the trees. Can you, if this is approved, what would those would have to be replaced?
If you approve with condition, those conditions are a basic tenet of the SUP operation. So yes, they would have to be replanted.
I mean, I agree. They're minimal screening. I mean, it's just kind of what is it? 5 trees?
6 trees total.
6 trees. 6 trees. That's it. It's not much. It's not. I mean, but they're dead.
Yes, that would be it. Again, if you approve it with condition, that would be a component of the approval. They would have to replant those trees.
And John, what's the timeline on doing that?
Well, I would suggest that all the conditions be met before the January 13th, 2024 timeline. The SUP would be based on, again, if you approve with condition,
Gotcha.
Those conditions have to be met before the SUP becomes effective. To me, that date is January 13th.
I'm just concerned that there's been no efforts to find and relocate the business. That's probably one of my greatest concerns, and conversations of potential expansion and of creating additional buildings. I mean, that is not what the intent was when
Relocated.
this was approved.
Yeah.
That's just.
Could we ask the applicant or the representative a couple questions? Is it the thinking, I mean, of the applicant that there is an intention that they're planning to move to a different location for at least the storage of the cranes?
That is under consideration, correct. Correct. And as to the trees, they have been replanted twice, but there's an issue of getting water to that area because there's a dog owned by Ms. Swearingen that seems to attack my client every time he gets near the trees. So,
That's a. Okay,
welcome to small town America.
But if but if someone's asking for 10 years, that doesn't let me believe that they're looking to be moving anytime soon. That's why I like to stay with what we presented and talked to.
Or deny it.
Well,
Yeah.
I indicated in all candor to this commission we would like to stay in that area. They like the area, they like the county, they like the people they work with.
Sure.
And like any business, they'd like to expand. Now, is that the correct location for it? It's under consideration to move to another location, but with COVID and the slowdown of that, yes, we have had 3 years, but it's not really a full 3 years when you think about it when they were shut down.
Well, COVID did. I mean, I'm sorry, but COVID did not stop a lot of construction. I do know that. And so, that's not a valid, in my opinion, that is not a valid excuse. COVID should not have affected locating property and beginning the process of moving the operation to a properly zoned area. And this special use permit is completely going against the current zoning of that area, which is residential or agriculture, which it does not comply with either.
And the area is slightly changing to more commercial nature. There's a winery in the area now, and there's other uses in the area.
But that's
I hear
agriculture.
your comments, And we have been looking at different locations to answer your question.
With respect, I would say that a public hearing has been conducted on this at the Planning Commission level. The 10-year time frame that the applicant has requested was considered at the Planning Commission level, and they determined that the 2-year was the most prudent for this type of use at this particular site in accordance with the original resolution.
I just want to see active efforts made to get this moved, because I don't want to be faced, or the commission to be faced in 2 years with a situation where there is litigation that could be pending, where we made very clear to the applicant at the time that they needed to find another place to put their operation. If they were operating without, kind of like, for lack of a better word, but it's not like illegally at the time when it came to the attention of planning and zoning in the county that the business was there and the disruption that it was causing to the people in the neighborhood because it was residential. And so I felt that were doing a favor to give the amount of time that we gave to allow for that to happen, for the business to move. So that's just...
So the original SUP called for a 3-year time frame, and then it could be considered to grant an additional 2 years. It wasn't that it automatically would be granted.
That's correct.
Did your client understand that?
Yes, we understand
Okay.
that.
My understanding, and I don't want to get into personal things, but there's been some sickness in the family and that kind of thing. And that weighs heavy with me as far as making a decision to grant an additional 2 years, because that's a direct effect of COVID.
Ms. Hull had serious health concerns during that time. I didn't want to mention it, but that is an absolute truth.
And that would weigh with me heavy. And so, but I do think the seriousness of the fact that we're not going to want to have, at least not the concentration of the cranes right there like there are now, in 2 years.
So does the county economic development, do we work with
We should.
SUPs and try to keep them in our county? And, when they outgrow?
And when
Or
if they're in compliance or not.
LCDC or anything like that? Or?
I believe
Have
that
you
Tom
guys reached out
does.
to the economic development folks?
Yes.
Yes.
And City of Tongi has an industrial park. They give ground away, seems like, and 10-year tax abatements.
What was the
I don't know if we've got a response, but it's on the agenda for them to do that. We're looking at all options, but certainly we want to stay in this county.
And if you need us to help you facilitate that, let's talk during the next couple of years. And because I know they actually have made some land grants and that kind of thing for these type of things.
And tax abatements.
Right. And the city has made tax abatements.
We would welcome any assistance you would offer.
Well,
They want to stay.
because we're not against the business, but we would like to help it's the neighbors. It's a balance.
And the types of businesses do make a difference when it's located within a residential, when we've given a special use permit for a residential area. So, okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have a motion on the floor then?
A second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. I'll begin voting with Commissioner Mike Smith.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay. Motion carries 3-2. Okay, now we need to consider a motion to approve the 2024 dust control request form. Welcome back, Bill.
Right. Commissioners, every year we come before you with the next year's dust control request form information and costs. This is a property owner paid for hard surfacing of the county roads. It does have a resolution that outlines the parameters for which we will apply those and what the county is responsible for the maintenance of and what they are not responsible for the maintenance of. That is 2022-27. The cost for installation and maintenance for the 2024 hard surface dust control program will increase by approximately 13%, as proposed in this board action item. That is the increase that we saw year over from the previous years, and as you guys are aware, that is kind of the cost of doing business now. We don't want to increase the cost at a rate more or less. Obviously, it is up to the Board of County Commissioners to determine what, if any, portion of the cost they do want to subsidize for this program. The analysis was completed for the 2023 program, indicates that the proposed increase would cover only the minimum cost to provide a hard paved surface on any gravel roadway. On some of these roadways, we do go in and do some extensive work, whether that be ditching or replacing crossroad culverts. We don't want to leave a crossroad culvert that's near the end of its useful life underneath a newly paved road and then cut the road in the subsequent years to replace that. So from time to time, depending on the location, there are additional maintenance costs that are not covered in this proposal. It is up to $28.11 per lineal foot of center line for the hard surfacing of the roadway, and it is $7.35 to do the maintenance on the non-connected previously chip and seal dust patches that were completed years ago. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
So 13% increase on basically asphalt and rock and
asphalt, rock, and oil. We averaged anywhere between a 11 and a 14% increase.
Wow, good thing we didn't remain revenue neutral then.
Yes, when we look at year-over increases, there weren't any in our department that were under 10%.
Yeah. Like I said, everything we do is way more than what they call the rate of inflation.
And hopefully inflation will start to go down. I think today they said they're not going to raise the interest rates, the Fed, so that's a good sign, hopefully.
I'm trying to remember when I got on the commission in 2019. This was like
$20,
17. I thought it was
19.
Yeah, I thought it was less than.
Yeah,
and
it was about $19 in 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's just
Wow.
Unbelievable.
yeah.
That's a lot of increase.
And it's also reflected in the budget request that we have each year has substantially increased. If you look from your 2020 amount, it's probably quadrupled because this program does offer 5 years 0% financing through the clerk's office. So we have to allocate a budgetary item for dust control in order to carry that cost through, because we have to expend the funds in order to within the department's line item budget in order to put it in. So when this program started previous to my employment, but in 2020, I believe we had about $25,000 because the majority of folks were paying the full cost, and currently the majority of folks are financing at 0% for 5 years through the clerk's office. So the cost to the line item budget has increased from $25,000 to several $100,000 a year.
Which people need to understand.
Yeah.
Right, but it's still a good program because it also
It does.
it's a cost share.
Yeah.
It's a public-private
a
partnership.
benefit.
Yeah.
And it benefits folks that don't even live on the road to drive on.
Exactly.
So
And
it's a good program.
when people say, I pay my taxes and I don't see any benefit from it.
Right.
That's something I think, something I also think we need to reemphasize is the number of miles of road that have been paved, the number of bridges that have been built, the number of culverts that have been replaced, the infrastructure of the county in the last 5 years. A tremendous investment has been made, and you are seeing benefits with your tax dollars.
And there's a reason for that, because they kicked the can down the road all these years to try to keep.
And the cost of doing it is not going down. Every time you put off doing projects and things, the costs.
But you are getting a
increase, but
benefit.
there is a benefit, absolutely.
You are driving on these roads. You're getting a benefit, and we have during budget time we fight over the budget. We argue over the budget. We have people on the floor being held down over the budget. But we really take the budget very seriously.
Yes, we do, and we
And-
don't like
And
each
that's why we
other.
got to take that's why we got to take local service budget very serious next year.
It's just, but we really just need to, but
Well,
when people
and
are saying, that we're spending more money, our budget's increasing, absolutely it is, but it's necessary. It's
You're
not.
getting a
We're getting a
benefit.
benefit for it. It's not wasted taxpayer dollars. And the cost of doing all of those things,
And
here we go again.
We don't
is
have
going up.
large reserves like the
No,
state.
we don't have $1 billion reserve or more.
And when we've gotten CARES Act money or we've gotten
We've
ARPA
used
money,
it for that.
we've used it for infrastructure that's going to last. And it's
And infrastructure
Tangible.
is economic development.
Yes,
Yep.
it's all been tangible. It's been something that is going to last, and it's not a little temporary fix for something.
we're not just sending out checks.
Yep.
Another thing that comes up every year in budget time that we've produced reports about is the cost of maintaining an asphalt roadway is greater than the cost of maintaining a gravel roadway. So as you see these improvements occur,
Right.
as the property owners pay, because this program almost, I believe, every year has been maxed out for the number of locations and miles allowed, that cost of doing business and maintaining the roads increases because the cost of paved road maintenance over the lifespan of the roadway over 20 years is more than gravel. So
But we
as
still
you
got to
do-
figure
as you
out.
improve the roads, the cost of maintenance is.
But we still got to figure out how to fund local service. How to get more money in there.
So that it is
Without
being taken
pricing
out of the
people out of their
general
homes.
funds. Right, which is,
And that's
the,
so.
yeah.
We're considered a county unit, correct? Or are we county rural?
I believe that we're a hybrid. And,
I do too.
Yeah, and that we're neither. And so we're one of two counties in the state of Kansas that still collect taxes in a township system.
I think it's 3.
Could be 3, but
Clay, Potawatomi, and Leavenworth.
I think Potawatomi went back to a township system.
I believe
Oh,
they
they
did.
did?
Yes.
Okay, then it is 2.
It's 2.
Yes, I believe it's down to 2. So there's only 2 counties in the state of Kansas that still tax in a local service, general road and bridge taxation system, and do a county unit maintenance. So we conduct a county unit maintenance, which is a more efficient process, especially a county with this population, but we still have a taxation system of a different maintenance.
Everything I've seen over the years out there, it was classified as a county unit. But if it was a county unit, it wouldn't be a local service budget.
If it was county unit, we wouldn't track our maintenance as if we were running 2 separate departments.
Correct.
We track
So-
our maintenance based on the type of road that we're putting the maintenance.
So this is probably a work session question, but how do you transition between those two?
That'd be a Mr. Van Peer's question.
Commissioners, you would need to make a policy decision as to go one way or the other. As Bill said, you've got a hybrid system right now. It requires, I'll call it, double accounting burden to keep track of those maintenance costs. You could either go back to, you could go full county unit, or you could go back to the township system. But that'd be a policy decision on your part.
Probably a work session item down the road.
It is, because I've
But we
been,
would need to involve the townships in those discussions.
well, I guess it's, we got to determine what was determined back in 1973.
Right.
The official,
And
how that
I guess we can look
passed.
back at the minutes to figure out why and how it did, and why that decision was made. Do you remember?
You remember? You should remember that.
No, I'm kidding. I was
A man of
still in
your
high
age.
school.
Well, yes, I
Middle
actually
school
do
at the time,
recall.
but
Commissioners, the issue is what type of a road system do you envision the county having in the future? Because these maintenance costs, the next item you're going to bring up are the replacement of 2 bridges. That's a 30, 40, 50-year decision to make when you replace a bridge. So when determining what system works best for you, I would suggest that you carefully consider what you want the county road system to look like in 20, 30, 40 years.
right.
So maybe we should put that on the, Mark's not here, but we should probably have a work session after the first
I
year.
think so, because
Talk
it's-
about it and.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, there's documents that says it's county unit, but it doesn't make it, you wouldn't have two separate road budgets.
We can look at that.
Or a hybrid, or
Commissioners, I'll gladly volunteer Mark to schedule a work session on this topic.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
okay.
All right.
You need a motion.
Need a motion.
Yes, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the 2024 dust control request form.
Second.
Motion and a second. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, now we need to consider a motion to approve project agreement number 729-23 for the replacement of bridges SH 54 and SH 61 on Golden Road.
Commissioners, today for your consideration is the project agreement with KDOT for the replacement of two bridges. It is a $2 million grant that is to cover 80% of the total construction cost. That would mean that the county is responsible for contributing $400,000 towards the construction of the two structures, with an estimated cost of $2.4 million total for the two. These two structures were already in the county's 5-year capital improvement plan, so these funds were allocated and now can be reallocated towards other bridges and other maintenance items, which would be mostly specifically bridges out of the 220 fund. So that is a huge savings that will help us offset some of the inflationary costs of these bridges because they have gone up so much in cost and allow them to stay on schedule for replacement. It is a very good grant. I don't know of any other counties receiving funding for more than one structure. This is the connecting link between K32 and the city of DeSoto, and I think KDOT is invested in seeing that road being maintained correctly, and is going to see increased traffic with the Panasonic plant. So I think it's a direct result. I know we talk a lot about seeing some funding coming from towards our roads from that development, and I think that the fact that we got two bridges, and we were the only entity that I've known of in the past decade to receive two in one cycle, I think that's an indication of some investment that they are making in the area.
Good.
Make a motion to approve. Put my glasses on. Project agreement number 79-23 for the replacement of bridges SH 54 and SH 61 on Golden Road.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Is there any conversation?
One of these isn't very old, correct?
One of them was a county constructed
Right.
bridge. I think it was made in 1974.
84.
Well, it was. I think it
All
was
steel
redecked.
bridge, all steel bridge.
It's an all
Yeah.
steel bridge.
Yeah, it was 84.
It could be.
I worked on it. I've been
Well-
here too long when bridges are going bad before I do.
That's back when they were wooden.
I think it's been worked on a lot, and then the other one's an all steel or all concrete structure that's really degraded.
Yeah. All steel bridges were built in the 80s.
Yeah.
They work on gravel roads. They just don't work on the blacktop because of the salt and all that. It's
Right.
not in there.
And
Because they got an asphalt
roads
deck
them,
on it
right.
instead.
I just think that the Department of Commerce and KDOT need to get their wallet ready because they are impacting Southern Leavenworth County dramatically with a project that we didn't have any input in. And this is a very good thing that they have stepped up to the plate with this, but there's going to be more impact down there.
Well, there should be because it's all zoned industrial down there.
Well,
So maybe
we'll
we should
see.
maybe get some businesses out of this.
So that's
Commissioner Culberson, did you have something you wanted to?
Yeah, so I've been looking at this for a while and looking at the list of bridges and the maintenance and inspection sheets on them, and we inherited this problem from past commissioners underfunding our bridge fund drastically. You know, basically we have 150 bridges in the county. They last 50 years. That means you need to replace 3 bridges a year to keep up so that you don't have failing bridges. We're short. And a lot of people don't realize without bills getting grants for a lot of the projects that we've been doing, we've basically been asking for handouts to keep up with the little that we are doing. We're way behind funding as many bridges as we should be funding. Looking at the list of inspections, we're going to reach a point in about 15 years where about 50 bridges are going to come due all at once in 1 year. We can't afford to replace 50 bridges in 1 year. So we've got to start doing something about that right now. So what I would like is a consensus from the board to direct staff to come up with a triage list to list criteria for bridges. Looking at these two bridges, they don't fit what I would consider the triage list. What I'm talking about is if a bridge, for instance, only has 5 cars a day, daily traffic, and the detour of that bridge, if it were not there, would only be a mile in either direction, then I think we need to start talking about closing bridges. That's where we're at. So I think we need to at least create a list so that we'll have some sort of a checklist to say this bridge does not meet the criteria to be very important to stay open. Bridges are $1 million a bridge basically now.
Or more.
Yeah, so we've got to start thinking about, we don't want to hit this 15-year mark and 50 bridges fail all at the same time. So we've got to start doing something about it. And the only thing I can think of without having the money is start closing bridges.
I can give you the history because there's times when I've watched during budget that the road department, we put in for even design of bridges and we were denied. So if we'd have had projects on the shelf, money came available, they could have applied for it.
Yeah.
So it's so important that we allow budget for projects to be on the shelf to submit, complete an application.
And that's smart. The only problem is we're already behind the ball here.
Well, that's what I said. This is how we
from
got
20
here.
years
This is how we got
past.
here.
Yep.
And you realize during the Tiger funds how many projects that we didn't submit because we had no projects on the shelf because they would not allow for us to budget to have projects sitting there to submit.
So I think it's.
And now the price of it now is ridiculous.
Well, on the sales tax, countywide sales tax, did that have an expiration date on it?
It's got a sunset, 20 years.
Yeah, it's
20 years.
20 years.
But has anybody plugged anything? I've talked to Mark about this a couple times. Has anybody plugged anything else into that after 20 years? I guess
we have a resolution that says you can borrow up to $40 million.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm going with on this, instead of giving 20, 30, 40 million dollars or whatever to industrial parks, something like that, this needs to move up for that revenue.
Priority.
That revenue comes in and says, hey, we got to do bridges before we do anything else. Jeff makes a good point. So I know we're taking care of things now, but if we're looking at a 50-year, that Jeff is saying those numbers are correct, then in 20 years, you need to be saying, hey, because I think it'll be renewed, you need to take that countywide sales tax, and this should be your priority.
I agree on the bridges, but if you did, sometimes an investment like industrial park investment, when we're so imbalanced on our taxes, where the taxes are coming from.
Well, I agree with that.
We can get more like Hill's Pet Nutrition. These Tonganoxie. When I first came on the commission, that industrial park was almost unfull. Almost there was one business, and now what's happening down there? The growth is tremendous.
Oh, I agree. But the question
But
is,
we're not getting any taxes.
There's the problem.
We're getting the school taxes.
We're not involved.
Well, we're not the school.
But
we are not involved in negotiations to making sure if you're going to give 20 years tax abatement, that makes it mute because you got to say, okay, neighborhood revitalization is a thing that cities are doing that works well. They get 5 and 10 years. That's why Lansing's doing so well. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we set that up, and now the money's going back to the city, so they're able to do things that they're doing out there, and that's what works. But you can't give away the future by tax abatement all the time, because that puts it back on everybody else. What I'm saying is there's got to be a compromise on this somewhere. We want to continue growth, but we've got to see where our priorities are, too.
And that's what I hope, this whole economic development thing, we need to sit down and get it figured out. If they put it on the ballot, maybe the voters will say,
They want to help.
we want an industrial development or industrial parks.
That we can get a return on our investment.
And then the voters have decided. But
I agree. And and the committee, I think, is getting ready to
Good,
move
good.
forward.
The
So
language on it.
Good.
there will be, I think there's the Port Authority, the meeting is Tuesday, so.
And the reason that I'm
Conversations
asking
about it then.
for consensus of the board to direct staff to create this triage list is because these two bridges wouldn't qualify. These are too busy, too important, too high of a detour, et cetera, et
Right, but we
cetera.
need to have that.
But the next bridge that I'm pretty sure is going to come up,
Down there.
the next bridge they're going to be asking to replace, I don't think needs to be replaced. If you come up with a triage list or a checklist or a list of criteria,
Right.
I think we need to have in place
And I-
before that bridge comes up
And I
to
know
be
right now
replaced.
Bill's really busy, so this is just one of those things to get on.
Down the line.
On your radar to
Yeah.
accomplish, but not as a, super
Yeah.
urgent thing. So I'm just saying, I know how busy you are right now.
Budget
Bill.
time.
So,
Does KDOT have a program? They did it one time, and I'm sure it's expired and don't do it, that they would give you money to close a bridge as long as you didn't build it back?
Yeah, they still have that through, it is an add-on to the local bridge program. So if you apply for a grant for the local bridge program, if you close a secondary bridge, they will give you an additional $100,000 as long as that secondary bridge is in poor condition. The only issue with that is the local bridge program is aimed at keeping the roads that would normally be inside the criteria that Commissioner Culbertson is speaking about today. So you would need to find a bridge to qualify for the local bridge improvement program that has a long detour, if it's not going to meet our criteria for closure, and it has less than 50 vehicles a day and is less than 50 feet long.
But Bill, economic development, that bridges and roads and those infrastructure is what will grow Leavenworth County.
Yep. And agricultural
balance.
connections, that's what people talk about a lot, and that's what that program is specifically set up for, is you have a lot of low-volume roads
Right.
with very poor bridges that the machinery keeps getting bigger and bigger on, and they don't want to haul that around a 5-mile detour or a 4-mile detour around a section. And so that program is aimed at reducing the number of poor quality bridges in the state of Kansas on low-volume, primarily agricultural roadways. But they do give you an extra $100,000 if you replace one bridge through their program and at the same time subsequently close another that's poorly rated.
but that's something but that's a good, just a project to get on the radar to begin. And I agree, just having staff put that on the list, the to-do list, when all of the other things that you have on our to-do list
Yeah.
are
To
you
do.
get a break.
I have a question. Do you, I don't know if already, like you have the volume, like, do you have like a list of low-volume bridges already?
Yes, we have a list from our 2022 inspections
Right.
that list all of the bridges that, I believe what I had previously provided to the board was all the bridges that were either rated poor or functionally obsolete.
Right.
That had a weight limit of, I can't remember if it was 15 or 16 tons or less. Because what I look at a lot is this bridge really rated poorly? When is the end of its useful life, and how quickly will it be downgraded? Because when you initially run into issues, is quite a while before you actually have to close the bridge to traffic altogether.
Oh.
But when the school buses can no longer cross a road, is when you really start to see that public outreach and the school districts and those folks, because if they can't get to some of these property owners, or they have a 6-mile detour to pick up 3 or 4 homes, that's when you start to really receive calls, is when that weight limit drops below 12 or 10, 12 tons, and the school buses are never allowed to cross.
Well, I think as we prioritize the bridges that are going to be replaced, certainly the low volume are
We're
going
getting
to,
there, Vicki. We're
so
slowly.
we have to be put at the bottom.
Okay, well, I think that's a good idea,
Yep.
Jeff, and I think the consensus is that, but don't put it as what we're saying, get this done now type thing. This is just.
Don't forget.
Well, it's a work session.
Don't stop writing grants.
Right, well, that's kind of like what I was.
We'll write grants.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, begin voting with Mike Smith.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, now we need to consider a motion to approve the lease of 2 trucks with Nextran in the amount of $182,494.33.
Commissioners, today for your consideration is the approval of the 2 lease trucks for Nextran. One is a sign technician truck and one is a mechanic's truck. Both have work beds and a lot of work equipment on them. It's a continued effort by the Public Works Department and the fleet manager to execute the equipment plan in government leasings with full warranties to try to reduce the initial cost of the purchase of a lot of these very expensive pieces of equipment that have gone up in cost over the past several years by as much as 100% to 60 to 100% in some cases when you're looking at some of these pieces of equipment. The first truck is a mechanic's truck, and it is a 2006 truck currently. It has been scheduled for replacement since 2016. It had a 10-year depreciation schedule, and it has just subsequently not been replaced. And then the secondary one is a 2017. It was on a 7-year replacement schedule. However, it'll probably be closer to 2026, 2025 before we receive some of these trucks. I would assume they said that delivery was sooner than that, but I've heard that so many times on every single piece of equipment. We're looking at, in a lot of cases, close to a 24-month turnaround before we see these pieces of equipment arrive. And so we did reach out to Enterprise and Nextran. We tried to get different government pricing for these. These are larger trucks. These are not your regular passenger type vehicles. And Enterprise would not present a proposal in one of them without a balloon insurance policy covering it. Nextran had no issues with that, and they were considerably less on the one that was an apples to apples. So with your approval, we will move forward with continuing the leasing program and execute it on these 2 pieces of equipment.
Questions for Bill before we entertain?
Anything else?
Make a motion to approve the lease of 2 trucks at Nextran in the amount of $182,494.33.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Begin voting with Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you very
All right,
much, Bill.
thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Bill.
Good thing you got that 33 cents in there.
Well, hey, it's right there in the motion, so we got to have it there.
Could be around in 2 years when they deliver them.
We pay for that 33 cents for something in the budget. So.
Every penny counts. Thanks, Bill.
See, we're counting pennies.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going down to our presentations and discussion items.
I've just got one, and it's not a thing. It's Becky said she'd take it down, and this is a ways out. The LCDC annual meeting that they have every year is on January 19th at 11:30 at Riverfront Community Center. If any of the county commissioners are going to attend, please let Becky know, and she'll do the reservations for us.
I usually attend because that's my assigned.
And I will be going for sure, so just to let her know. That's all I have.
Know that
That's
we're
all I have,
going to be
Madam Chair.
there, so. Okay.
Just attended the conference last week in Wichita, and then I attended funeral Saturday for Raymond Martin. He was a lifelong Leavenworth County resident. He was 96 years old. Very good man. That's all I have.
And at the conference, I feel like for what we were supporting, it was very productive.
We were on the same page, it seemed like, with the KAC.
That's great.
Friday, I met with the OB Club up on Fort Leavenworth to do a presentation on the LAVTR and a couple other things, pilot checks and stuff like that. Yeah, I took our past county appraiser, Fred Hope, with me because he was a member of that club, mostly so the natives wouldn't eat me, but I thought, too, that worked out well because he solidified everything I said. You know, I would say something and the room would say, oh, and then Fred would say, no, that's actually how it works. That's exactly what happens. That is the way it is. And that worked out really good because by the end of the meeting, they all had a completely different idea than they did before the meeting. So that worked out pretty good. And then also, Easton City is writing a letter of support for our LAVTR
Good
stuff. That's all I got.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, I got.
Oh, you got something?
I just was trying
Oh,
to defer
okay,
to
okay.
everybody else. Okay, let's see. I attended
sorry,
the seminar or little training for the Panasonic having the individuals from Japan. So there was a cultural training for that, and it was a pretty good training. Tom, myself, and John attended, and
Can you speak some Japanese
can't,
for
no,
us?
but I learned how to present a business card and the different bows and some of the protocols for dining and business etiquette and things like that. It was a very informative meeting, actually.
Yep.
It really was.
Last year it was great. Yeah.
Yep, and the food, they had a presentation, so you learned how to eat properly
Yep.
with the manners and lessons on using chopsticks. And then the Transit Authority Finance Committee meeting I participated in yesterday afternoon, and then last evening the City of Leavenworth City Commission meeting, and that was it. And then I think that's all. Tomorrow is the Leavenworth Area Development meeting, so I'm believing so. I will be attending that in the morning, but that's all I have. So now I'll entertain a motion to.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I got ahead of myself. Make a motion to adjourn.
Voting with you?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.